like immersed to the point where it's like I'm excited about not doing anything other than this deal.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's project,
What's
the Jeff
up?
Heilman Project. This episode of our podcast welcomes in our second season, the new year.
2 episodes.
Yeah, a new year, all of that.
And I would not have done a single episode of this show if it wasn't for you and Andrew being like, are we ready to do it? Yep, okay, great. Let's go spend some money. Oh, buy some microphones. Oh.
Remember when we were kids? A round of applause?
A round of applause. It's a round of applause to you guys. I was like, someday it would be nice if I pontificated of what I would be doing if I built a podcast. Maybe it would be nice to have a podcast someday. And Jessica's like, you got a commission check. Tell me when you get a commission check. We'll go shopping.
That's
and then,
your Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Rocky and Bullwinkle, yeah.
Voice.
And then it's like, hey, Rocky, watch me pull a podcast out of my hat.
Was better than out of somewhere else.
We do that too, folks. We're not proud. We need an episode every week. We're gonna do, and then all of a sudden, off to Guitar Center. We're like, pshoom. She's like, pshoom. Guitar Center, and then didn't we get the mixing box for like? It was
it was on. No. It was a used because Guitar Center has used and new.
Yeah.
It was They kind of treat it like a pawn shop in the sense that somebody came in with some equipment that they used like once or twice, and they thought that they were going to be podcast marvels, and it didn't turn out. So they brought it into the Guitar Center.
They did like one podcast, and they're like, I'm done.
They brought the whole thing into the Guitar Center, and then we just had to wait for that period of time, whether they were going to come back and get it or not, to be able to put it on the floor for it to be sold.
That's why we started in March. We were going to start in February, but we wanted to save whatever it was, well,
we couldn't. We wanted, well, it was several $100s to get
It was like $700 or $800 off of what it would have been.
I mean, the cases alone, because it came with the cases, are several $100s for those. They look like the kind of cases that they have the money in, the big silver cases that look like very official, professional.
We're talking Ocean's 11 here, folks.
Yeah. So, how was your week? It's been a week since our last episode.
Do I get to do a happy dance?
You get to do as happy a dance as you will allow yourself to do.
Happy dance. We got a deal closed that I've been working on for a long time.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited about
that. That allows us to live and fight another day here in entrepreneur land as we bring the humanities to entrepreneurship.
Yes.
I feel like we're doing an episode of The Office.
So today, back in the early 2000s, John C. Maxwell, in his leadership, was on he was writing a book. He was probably writing a book a year on leadership, and was very popular and prolific in his authorship. He is actually quoted. He is the first one who is quoted as saying, at least throughout the research that I did, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
I remember that.
And so today, since we've been talking the last few weeks about our first job, first experiences, first year, first spring, we're going to kind of wrap up our firsts by talking today about when was the last time, and encouraging those who are listening and watching to ask themselves, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
I think that's a really good question. I mean, if I look at stuff that I've done recently for the first time, I played clarinet for the first time this year. I played trumpet for the first time this year. I played piano for the first time this year.
And started taking lessons.
Did a podcast. Yeah, I started taking piano lessons for the first time this year. I started the new job, the job that I'm working right now. I never did that for the first year. I closed my first deal this year. That was today. Got my first deal closed actually in that literally an hour before the board meeting today, which was awesome. What are the firsts?
Well, it was also one of the firsts for your company to have this with this new team. It was the first time this new team came together.
It was the first deal that this team had run at the pace that we're at. We had an RFP response team that's part of the group that ran the cycles on the paperwork. First deal with this, a couple of people, I won't name any names, but the people that were in the role of VP of engineering role was new. The VP coordinator was new. First deal closed with strategic sales at this size for me as a director. And firsts. We didn't do Disneyland. What trips did we go on? Oh, went to Montreal
Oh, I went to France.
for the first time. You went to France for the first time. Took Madeline to her first trip to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then Madeline went on her first trip to New York by herself this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are some things.
Just this week for Passion Week, because we're right in the middle of Passion Week. Today is Monday. Palm Sunday was, today's Tuesday. Palm Sunday for us was a couple days ago. And so for this week, I am, for the first time, I have a time lapse. I've recorded, what I do is I like to draw to music. So I'll pick worship music, or I'll pick some sort of music, like a song or two. And as the song is going, I will doodle in ink. I will draw in ink.
I'm doodling right now.
And fill the entire page.
We're doing
And so this time, for the first time, I not just time-lapsed it because I've time-lapsed them before, but I actually put the original, which is the one that I'm drawing to the music. I put the original up for sale on Instagram and Facebook.
That's pretty cool.
And so anyone who makes a comment on the video will get to purchase the original one that I drew. And then if they want copies, then the copies are also for sale, but in a limited batch. I'm only going to copy the image 20 times.
Copies. Okay.
So for this week, Passion Week, and I'm releasing one each day, so there will be 7 by the end of the week leading up to Easter. There will be 7 inspirational images that I have drawn and time-lapsed. And so not only do you get the video for the drawing being drawn live, like it's time-lapsed of it actually being created, you get the video and you get the original piece of art. And then there will be 7 of them. So that's something that I've done for the first time this week. I've never done that before. I've sold my art before. I had an art company in the past that I operated, but in an art and card company, paper company. But this time is something totally different. And I just thought, why not? Why not try something new?
I think you should.
Why not try something
If you've
for
never
the first
played banjo
time?
and you always wanted to, you should try it. I mean, I learned how to play guitar.
You went out to the park 2 days ago for the first time.
I went to the park and I was so, it's beyond stressed. It's like fatigued to the point where you want to escape your life as a human. I'm an entrepreneur. I was so tired. I was working on this deal on Sunday night. We were trying to get it closed on Monday. And I needed to go away. I needed to stop being Jeff for a little while and do something totally different and go to the park. So I went to the park and I started painting. I'm like looking around going, I'm going to paint a tree. So I started painting a tree and I'm painting the tree and I'm putting the dots up there and it's starting to look pretty good. And I'm putting more dots and mixing more colors and putting more dots. The wind's going and then this woman comes over to me and says, "What are you painting?" And I'm like, "I'm painting a tree." And so she there was a bench there. And I'm sitting on one side of the bench. I'm just painting this tree. She said, "Do you mind if I sit down?" I said, "No, I'm just painting a tree and wasn't doing anything." And then she goes, "Well, would you paint my portrait?" And I'm like, "Yeah, who are you with?" "Oh, my kids are playing over there." And they're at a birthday party and they're playing. And, I'm like, sure. I've never painted a portrait before. And if you come out looking like Picasso, I'm just letting you know right now, like, I'm not very good at this. So do you want me to include? The woman's photo is not in it, but the picture that I painted was.
You can. Andrew can add it.
We'll review.
I'll throw it up.
All right.
He'll throw it up.
Subject to review from the oversight committee here at the Jeff Heilman Project. But I painted this woman's portrait in probably, I don't know, the time that I was there. This is what happens when you try something new. I was at the park for 2.5 hours, and it felt like I was gone for 4 days. Time just evaporated for me. I had no sense of time. I was totally immersed in the subject matter of the tree, and then this woman's portrait that I was working on. And then as we were finishing up and she was getting up to run away, I didn't notice anybody around me, but apparently there were people around me. And these 2 girls that were 10 years old that were there for a different birthday party came and they asked me, "How much is it to get your portrait painted?" And I was like, Nothing. I'll paint your portrait for nothing. So I painted their portraits sitting. But the portrait that I did of the woman, I was pretty happy with. I saw that if I had kept going with it, it would have gotten the values and the shades and things together. But I mean, still, you're talking, 30 minutes, 40 minutes? That wasn't a really long period of time. The girls that we did, I think that was maybe like 25, 30 minutes. I don't know. I couldn't keep track of time. My brain was like, and this is what, if you watch the Andrew Huberman podcast and he talks about dopamine and the fact that when you are immersed in deep work, that you totally lose track of time, because dopamine has everything to do with circadian rhythms. And that when you're getting a dopamine fix from real hardcore deep work and kind of stretching that hunger to accomplish something, that the dopamine receptors are the same receptors that figure out what time stuff is, and you just lose it. You totally lose track of time. And that was the most immersive, most incredible experience, to sit there and paint portraits of people at the park for free and be totally escaping. And I was able to get a level of rest from the madness of trying to get this deal across the line for the last 5 months.
I think that's important, and that's why it's an important subject to talk
about. I'm so glad that you asked
today.
me all these insightful questions about myself, because I would just keep talking forever, but you're really good. You're really good about these topics, Jess.
I think that it's really important to talk about the last time you did something for the first time, because regardless of whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's painting a fence or whether it's closing a sales deal, we have synapses that are created and have been created. We have ruts in our brain that have been created to do the same. Do that. This is how I do it. This is how I do it. This is how I do this thing. This is how I do that thing, because you're familiar with it.
That's right.
But then when you do something new for the first time, the last time you do something for the first time,
you did something for the first time.
You're in uncharted waters. There's no grooves. There's no ruts.
And it forces you into beginner's mind.
Absolutely.
Beginner's mind is a whole new world. If you have never read or listened to on Audible, I like the Audible one because it's got the Tim Ferriss podcast at the end that he does with the author of the book, The Art of Learning. The book is called Josh Waitzkin's The Art of Learning. Josh Waitzkin was the subject of the film Searching for Bobby Fischer. Bobby Fischer was a phenom child prodigy in the area of chess, and late 1970s, early 1980s, Josh Waitzkin comes up in the ranks in the shadow of Bobby Fischer, and
great movie, by the way.
Has an incredible story. And then all of a sudden he burns out. When he's 16 and a half, 17, he had this thick accent Russian coach who would kick his butt and make him work too hard. He did not like. And after too much time, he says to coach, "I'm going to quit." And he quits chess after being world champion. And then he takes what he did in learning how to be a chess champion and goes and does an entirely new discipline in martial arts called push hands Tai Chi. Push hands Tai Chi it's a sparring exercise where you stand, I think you stand in a circle or you stand in some ring, and you stand with your hands holding and applying pressure. And then you go, and you start the sparring. And he becomes a world champion in push hands Tai Chi, and takes the art of learning, what he does to push from the very first contact with something to actual mastery. And then he does it in chess, and then he does it in push hands Tai Chi. And personally, anybody interested in excellence, in perfection, in consistent, near perfect performance in any discipline. We have friends that listen to this podcast that are professional athletes, professional baseball players, entrepreneurs. We have people in sales. We have people that wait tables. We have people that work in coffee. We have moms and dads. We have friends that text us and say, "We listen to your podcast while we're doing dishes together on the weekend." To me, it is an honor to be included in somebody's life, and to think that we could have earned the right to be part of somebody's daily or weekly routine just by doing this for 1 year seems asinine to me because, I mean, most of the time when I get up here, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I feel retarded half the time when we are
You're
talking.
welcome. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Jessica, she holds hostage any of the topics that we're working on. I'm drawing, like scribbling, like right now I'm drawing the carpet. I'm doing something to get my mind off of what I'm thinking about so that I can just put a VPN concentrator right into the subconscious and just speak from what we have studied and studied and studied and pushed. So for those of you who have allowed us into your home and into your dishpan hands in proximity when you're doing dishes, I would say as we get to this first year, second season now, folks, in case you didn't know, we're bantering.
The intention of the Jeff Heilman project, and it was an exploratory, project in the beginning, especially, was that I feel like, and maybe it's the fact, because I have spoken with other married couples that have been married for longer than 25 years, getting into the 30s and plus. That we do have a lot of conversations. You get through the first 5, 10 years of marriage, 15 years even, that there are moments when we can talk for 45 minutes for an hour about the kids and what are the kids doing in the future and what are we going to be doing in the future. And it's not unique to our relationship that we have these conversations.
We just have so much stuff.
And so it's like, thinking about it, like these are conversations, and this is the way that this podcast has been designed, that hopefully our children will be able to listen to, that people could potentially benefit from. Like what were our parents talking about when they were in their...
What were those guys talking about?
When they were in their near 50s.
I can see our kids when they're in their 50s listening to this going, what were mom and dad talking about? Oh my gosh, the internet webs, like what?
Well,
you actually had to go outside.
A lot of people ask us, I mean, the number one question is, how do you do it with 7 kids? And my number one response in the quick answer is just one at a time. Like we didn't know what we were doing, and so we have them one at a time, and because we had them one at a time, we were learning as we go. That's my quick response. But having this podcast to be able to go like, hey,
what has this podcast done for your answer on how do you do it one?
I have when I'm talking with people for the first time and they're asking me about the kids, and they're asking me, like, they'll say, well, I have a 20-year-old. And then I have said, oh, our 21-year-old daughter, Madeline, was on the podcast, and maybe if you go back and watch her, or our son, Joseph, was also on the podcast, and Jeffrey, like you can kind of get a feel for the way that the kids were raised. You can get a feel. I know Teddy wants to be on one of the episodes.
I know, he's so cute.
He's very excited about being on one of the episodes, but needless to say, being able to be a fly on the wall and drop in on an adult conversation of a couple that is committed to not only staying married, being married, raising a family, and being able to put out there some sort of a content to be able to share and be able to say, like, look, this is what we are talking about. This is what's on our hearts and minds, and maybe it's something that you might consider too. Like, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
Such a good one, folks. If you try doing something, I don't care if it's something as simple as eating with your left hand.
Yeah.
Or drawing something. I'm drawing something right now. I never drawn the rug before. I never run out of stuff to draw before, but now I got a rug, and this is what I'm drawing because there's a cool pattern on the rug. So there's a shift in getting out of your mind. I don't know how to explain it. It's like getting into your visual mind. I've been working on this deal, and I went so far down the rabbit hole. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails in my inbox right now. I am probably a week behind, at least 72 hours. I'm filtering now by important people and responding to those emails and nobody else. Haven't been at email inbox at 0 in 2 weeks. I've got customer support issues that are blowing up. I've got people that want stuff from me on Teams. But I've been totally and completely immersed in this deal immersed to the point where it's like I'm excited about not doing anything other than this deal for like 2 or 3 weeks. And that came from reading Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. But I was able to get this deal, to get enough attention on this deal internally. That's like 42 people internally, which is, SG&A cost nightmare. But I got 42 people in the organization looking at this deal. In the last 2 days, I had those people on red alert to answer the question, answer calls, answer texts, answer Teams message, anytime anybody needed anything. And we were able to close 50-something pages of red lines across a data privacy agreement, statement of work, purchase order, order form, and a master service agreement for SaaS on customer paper in a week. 2 attorneys on their side and our team on our side. And we got it done, and the deal was signed an hour before the board meeting started this morning. And I'm like, that was the coolest bleep thing I have ever done. It was totally immersive. It was the first deal I've closed since I joined this company. And the level of release, when we were talking last week about, what movie portrays, I said Phantom Thread, Daniel Day-Lewis, the star, the Academy Award winner. And you said,
Run, Fat Boy, Run.
Run, Fat Boy, Run, which I think was so funny. If you get a chance to watch Phantom Thread and you see him come down from the work that he put into his fashion show as a couture house in London back in the 50s, that's what this is like. It's so peaceful and quiet and relaxing. The crow doesn't bother me at all. I'm totally chill right now. We did manicures, pedicures, breakfast out, lunch out. I'm going to go get a massage later on. I will be taking care of these fantastic eyebrows in a little bit with some waxing. And we're doing the recovery process, the coming down process from the deep work. And there's things that I need to be doing there's balls in the air that are getting dropped and there's plates crashing on the floor. But this deal was so big and so important, and the timing on it, there's so many more things that I can't even explain, but it's it's not an 8-figure deal. It's a multi-7-figure deal. It's not an 8-figure deal, but it had ramifications that are perpetual. My point to that is just saying, I want to live like this the rest of my life.
What if
Huge.
What if you, whether it be through age, through experience, through being better at choosing what's coming in and what's going out, what if your plates have gone from being made out of porcelain to being made out of plastic? I'm serious. I think that when
We've upgraded to Tupperware here, folks.
I think that when we are young,
we like plates that bounce.
I think that when we are young, our psyches and our immaturity creates a very fragile existence. And I think that it is imperative that we work very hard not to drop plates when we're younger, because we're basically starting out with the finest china. Like, we are starting out at a point to where we're super sensitive. We can be easily offended. Life has just started kicking us in the teeth. And so therefore, any plates that we drop.
By the way, young people are offended. That's okay. That you didn't invent it. And you're not going to stick with it forever. You'll stop being offended eventually, most of you. And we were offended when we were young too. So just so you know, the whole sense of out of control when you're hanging out with adults and you get offended and then you lose your beep and then other people don't. And then you're like, how do I respond? That's normal. Everybody goes through that process.
Yeah.
And we're not mad at you for losing your stuff. We just know that you haven't grown up yet, and you will eventually, most of you.
So I happen to think that as those plates
get over that.
Are dropped, whether we pick them up and glue them, and by the time we're a certain age, there's so much glue holding those plates together that they no longer break when they drop, or we've been able now to create newer plates that if they fall, they don't break. You're going to be able to open up your email to your 300 emails.
Yes.
And in the past, when you were, 19, just starting out, proving yourself, you've got a boss that's over your shoulders saying you're dropping the ball, Heilman. Now, you'll be able to open up those 300, clean them out. They're going to be easy.
I know what I need to do to clean them out. It's just, it's going to take me 6 or 8 hours to do it. And I haven't had 6 or 8 minutes.
So anyways,
you haven't been at work for a long time.
That's just what I think. I think that over time, I don't think that you're dropping in spinning plates anymore. I don't think that you're
dropping.
If you are, then they're the plates
Dropping
that,
boxes of plates, folks.
if they are, then those plates
Stuff's
are
shattering.
not those plates aren't critical
No,
because
they're not critical. These are not,
they're
wedding
not
china
fine
from grandma.
Exactly.
No.
That's instant. That's what
No,
whatever
these are
you're
paper
responding
plates.
to instant
These
message.
are paper plates.
Yeah.
Paper plates can drop. Grandma's china, don't drop that stuff. Better for you. You'll live longer, and you won't get written out of the will.
Yeah. So, in your attempts to do something for the first time, something new, the last time you did something new
It's
for
so
the first
great
time,
to feel good about knowing that, like, you can
let all the other stuff
can let all the other stuff just
go away.
drop, and it's like nothing happens. What happens when you drop all these other plates? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. I got one thing that needed to happen, and I happened to scan my emails and catch it. I took care of it. And in a week, like, think about how much time we spend like little rats looking at little rat pellets coming out to be able to feed ourselves with the little rat pellet button. Oh, check my email. Oh, rat pellet. And, like, I'm sitting there where I didn't touch email for a week. Nothing went wrong. Nothing. Like, all I did was work on this deal, which closed for millions of dollars. And then the rat pellet, like, stimulus response thing is just eradicated. It's just gone. So I'm sitting there going, why do I even check email every day?
I know. That's what I remember.
Should I even check email every day?
I remember. Do you remember having this conversation with my mom when she worked at Apple and she had a boss because she was like, got to get to zero, got to get to zero. Like she's a super performer too. Got to get to zero. And one of her boss, looked over and he's like, Pam, you do realize that even if you get to zero, you're still going to have 500 email in the morning when you first come in, right? Like your email box does not close. It does not hang a little closed sign on it in the middle of the night while you're asleep.
There's no elves making shoes at that cobbler through the night.
So, and then I remember her going, oh, yeah, I guess that's right. So she just started, closing it up for herself and waking up and doing that
nice?
In the morning because, like, yeah, it doesn't.
We love
it doesn't
Pam.
matter.
Pam's so cool.
It does
It's
not.
so nice to have a cool mom-in-law.
It does not matter because
What's up, Pam?
your inbox is going to be full. If they
guess
really have to
In
get a
case you
hold of
didn't know.
you, it's called, as you said, instant message or text message or a phone call.
Folks, in case you didn't know, your inbox is going to be there in the morning.
That's right. Never check email in the morning. Is that
Never check email in the morning.
Is that the name of her book?
That was the follow-on book to SPACE, Organization from the Inside Out. Apparently that one didn't do as well.
So good.
But we love Julie Morgenstern. I should, that would be so cool. Wouldn't that be cool if we had Julie Morgenstern on the podcast?
We should reach out to Julie.
We should talk to her and say, Julie,
her book has
your book
impacted us.
changed our life. You know what we could do? We could do Battle of the, trying to think of a word that means cleaner upper that starts with a B. We should have a bake-off. We should have a philosophy challenge between Marie Kondo, Martha Stewart,
in this corner,
and Julie Morgenstern. Only the crazy folks would suggest something so wild. Like, nobody thinks about those things, like Battle of the Organizers. It would be so great. We could have them put little boxing gloves on and then have a panel. Let's do Battle of the Organizers. Do we do just one thing? Do we process? Do we sort, purge, assign a place, containerize, and equalize? Julie Morgenstern. Do we get 3 piles, like Marie Kondo, of piles of shoes, clothes in one, piles of books and papers in another? And then what's the third thing? SWAS.
I forget what it is.
There's like a third pile. Do you do the 3 piles? Do you do the space? I don't know. That'd be interesting, I think, to do an organizer's bake-off.
Well, we've definitely gone into some uncharted waters and have mentioned doing things for the first time.
What have you done?
Boxers.
I've been talking this whole time. What have you done for the first time?
I told you I made the time-lapse art and I put it up for sale on Instagram and Facebook. So if there's any art left, knock yourself out. You can purchase it. It's 5x7 art and it's all hand drawn.
I'll buy some from you.
Thank you, babe.
I would buy your art. What about you, Andrew? What have you done for the first time?
Well,
lately?
he added, if anybody
podcast.
is watching right now, he added some new lighting to the room.
You did add new lighting. Andrew, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what your philosophy was to come up with said lighting enhancements at the Jeff Heilman project?
It's all about adding dimensionality and more elements to it, less bare bones.
You worked on this. I was talking about the fact that the video portion of our podcast, we're trying to improve that, even though I think the audio portion's pretty. It seems pretty solid.
Bow, chicka, bow, wow.
I do think the audio portion. When I listen to the podcast of us talking, it doesn't just sound like us talking. To me, it does. It sounds like, oh, these people have read some books, lived some life, had some experience, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide a level of engagement with the audience of just like raising kids and moving around the country and getting fired all the time and changing jobs and selling new technologies and playing professional golf and your work in raising the. I mean, you could write a master's thesis on organizational change management of the juxtaposition of how you physically got Madeline to ballet, Joseph to diving, Madeline home, Joseph home, had 2 kids, made it to the gym, figured out how to talk me off the ledge half the time when I was in the process of changing jobs. Like just the pure logistics of all the stuff that you've been getting done. I think that's interesting. I think it scares people. It scares me, and I watched her do it. But those types of things, as Jerry Seinfeld said, right? His show is a show about nothing. This is 100% a show about nothing. We talk about nothing every week, and people seem to like it. So it's like the wronger something is, the crazier we're talking about, like a boxing match between Marie Kondo, Martha Stewart, and Julie Morgenstern, who, do you guys even know who Julie Morgenstern is? If not, her book, Organization from the Inside Out, came free with our paid subscription to Public Storage for 1 year. It was absolute game-changing book.
Oh, yeah.
Sort, purge, assign a place, containerize, and equalize. And if you want to go look up a YouTube video on that and figure out how she does it, totally worth your time, possibly more time.
And there have been new ones like the home edit. They have popped up. That's the two girls. That's the two girls that come in.
I mean, the bottom line is don't be a hoarder.
Peter Welch.
We don't like those messages. They're a little judgmental.
But back to what you were talking about. I think that the key, at least for me, in being able to do all of the things, and that's a saying that we have, we just like to do all the things.
We call it doing the stuff, actually. Is
in order to do all the things has been the key success factor for me has been time boxing, having designated times to do the things, and then being completely present in the middle of doing those things.
That's a big one too. Yeah.
Because that's really the only way, doing, like you say, doing the one thing, but being present in the moment and not trying to multitask at that moment. Which is crazy
because I'm drawing while we're doing the podcast, but I don't know why I feel like there's an easy separation here. I really do. Like drawing and doing the podcast, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, it's actually what you're doing is you're channeling your nervous energy into the illustrating that you're doing, which is actually causing you to focus and be more able to and more present to be able to listen. Yeah. Because if you were not doing that,
can you believe I'm nervous after a year of doing this and it's my own show in my garage?
Nervous energy is not necessary. It's just it's tension. It doesn't necessarily mean nervous as
Andrew's nervous. He has no idea what I'm about to say right now.
Scared. It's just channeling your. It could be considered anxious energy.
It is a little bit.
It could be. Yeah, it's like a lightning rod that takes your vibrations and your energy, and you're able to put it onto the paper, and because you're channeling it, you're able to actually be more present. And so being able to be present, you are doing one thing. That one thing is listening, but in your need to be able to listen, you're a better listener as you are channeling your energy through your pen into something that you're illustrating.
Yeah. It's different, like the visual side of it versus the audio side of it is not the same.
It is the same reason why if you look at studies, because I've studied childhood development and education, that some children still
can't get me to grow up.
Some children need to doodle and draw in the middle of a lecture while there's a lecture going on. They will retain and be better in tune to what they're listening to if they have some form of an outlet of doodling or coloring or drawing or something while they're listening. And so a lot of people have that same. Some people can only focus, like if I'm writing, I can't I can write words to music, but my music can't have any lyrics. It's got to be just instrumental. I cannot, if I hear somebody talking in my ear while I am trying to put words in or answer an email or do anything like that, I cannot do those two at the same time. But Madeline, on the other hand, our daughter, she can listen to whatever. She can write a full-on fiction book. She can write with Maroon 5 playing in the background, The Weeknd or whatever. I don't know who she's listening to.
She's doing that.
And she can just come up with all kinds of crazy stuff, creative stuff. I have to be a little more focused. I have to be a little more intent than that. And sometimes if I'm really deep in the zone and I'm really trying to listen and write what I'm hearing, I can't have any music at all because I just got to it's just got to go like this, in and out. So, but there are a lot of people that we at the church that we go to, there's actually some tables in the back that we've set up because there's a lot of very creative people and a lot of people that need to have that outlet that you can go in the back and there's paper and crayons and pens and paints and you can be back there during the service and during worship and just doodling while the worship is going on, doodling while you're listening, because it's a very real thing to be able to focus and listen as you're channeling your energy into a way that makes it so that you can listen better and be able to,
folks,
be more in tune.
Life is hard. Life is hard. Making money can be difficult. Raising kids can be difficult. Maintaining your health can be difficult. I'm dealing with some back stuff right now. Time management, relationships, managing your relationship with your people at work, people that work for you, people that you work for, figuring out how to make money, figuring out how to do taxes. Adulting is just a pain in the effing ass sometimes. And I hope that this show, which is what it is, it's a show. We're trying to show. We're trying to show up. We're trying to show off. We're trying to blow stuff up. We're trying to break things. We're trying to break self-limiting beliefs. I hope that this show will help create the kinds of questions in your mind that will help you to reach for doing things in a different way, doing things faster, doing things slower, doing things more meticulous, doing deeper work, doing more meaningful work, working harder on the things that you care about and dropping more plates on the things that you don't care about. And I don't know, because we don't have a ton of viewers now, 150 subscribers or so, and we'll get some comments and we'll get some views on Reels. So we don't really know what the impact is, but the fact that it offers us a chance to have leverage, I think is really cool. That we can have the same conversation. We would be having this conversation. All we did was sit and have the same conversation we would have had before, and we put some mics and some cameras and some lighting up and have Andrew do his mastery work in editing. But this is what we've been doing for 27 years. This is what we've been doing for 27 years. We did it at breakfast today. We did it at lunch today. We did it while we were talking. We talk about what's going on and how to think and how to look at things and how to upgrade our narratives and how to think about things in a way that's going to give the best possible yield. And I just think that's really interesting. It's what we think about. It's what we talk about. It's our obsession. Our obsession is understanding personal development and tearing into what makes things work really well. I got a buddy of mine, he's got $150 million. How did he do that? He's only a couple years older than me. He's super smart, but is he 150 million times smarter than me? I don't know. I don't think so. I think there's little aspects of leverage and growth. I have another friend of mine, played pro baseball for the same amount of time that I struggled to play on tour. How did he do that? I think it was a lot more focused than what I was able to give golf, because I had a wife and 7 kids to feed and a 60-hour-a-week sales job. But why did he make it and I didn't? How what determines the difference in the quality of people's lives? That's the Tony Robbins question. But I've been obsessed about that, and I hope that this show will bring some of the greatness from Tony Robbins, Les Brown, who's Tony Robbins' mentor, Jim Rohn with the Girl Scout cookie story. If you guys haven't heard Jim Rohn, you got to look him up too. I hope that we can memorialize these great men and women throughout time.
You and I were having a talk this morning,
And offer something of value.
Just this morning over breakfast about our personalities. And I wanted to make sure, and we're going to document it publicly here, that you hear me again saying how much I appreciate.
Disorder?
No, how much I appreciate built into your own personality, your commitment to conservatism, your commitment to being able to financially know the boundaries between let's play, but let's not play, let's have some play, but maybe not play too much. Like you have a very innate ability to be able to be pragmatic when it comes to financial responsibilities. And I admire that so much in your ability to do that. And it is a part of innately who you are. And it is why I can be a stay-at-home mom for 27 years and we can have 7 kids. Now, granted, both you and I work together in making it actually tactically happen, but the ability to be able to make it happen has come in great response to your ability to be fiscally conservative, aware of where things are, keeping tabs on things, and being able to see a big picture that way. And in the same breath, we were talking about your yin to my yang, or whatever you might want to call it, is this innate ability that I have to see the situation with a different filter, to be able to look for I'm a hunter, just like any good wife is, a hunter and a gatherer.
For deals.
I hunt for
deals.
The daisies in the mess. I hunt for what positive spin can we throw on this negative situation? There's a negative situation. I use the example of those
are fertile hunting grounds in our family,
if we're walking down a New York City alleyway and there's just garbage cans and it's dark and it's black and it's like disgusting, I'm looking for the daisy. I'm looking for the weed coming out of the ground that's got a little bud on it because life is just so dark anyway, and so
super hard and
it's
dark.
super hard and it's dark. So for me,
and we're positive people, but I'm just saying.
For me, I've got to look for, it's built into my personality to hunt and find how can we throw the spin on this that it's positive.
Yep.
It's in you to make sure that
my life is about risk mitigation.
That that we're building our house on solid ground. And we were talking, and perhaps next episode we can talk about you're relating to the stone and the rebar, like maybe my
tune in next week.
My bend is to be like a rebar, your bend is to be like the concrete, and together we make a house. We make a house a home.
That's a good one. And I would love, we can talk more about that, and you guys post in comments, but the thought hit me today that in the old days, when they were building buildings, if they were building them out of wood, you get 2 stories, 3 stories. If you're building them out of cement and concrete, the rule of thumb was 6 stories. That's about as big as you could get, unless you're doing the Dome in Florence or the Brooklyn Bridge. But the problem with those is that the construction timelines on those were dozens or even hundreds of years. And so if you're going to build if you want a skyscraper on your building, before you die, you build it out of stone and you go to 6 stories, and that's it. But in the late 1800s, they figured out how to add some alloys to steel. And I'm not a chemist, but to iron to get it to turn into steel. And what you have is a combination of 2 types of strengths. For those engineers out there, you guys can murder me in the comments on this one. They have what's called compression strength, which is the ability to hold force straight down, the force of gravity. And that's kind of like the brick. The stone, granite can hold an incredible amount of compression-based strength. But it's very brittle. It's not flexible. That would be like mawa. And then you've got steel, cement, concrete that's reinforced with steel, rebar or iron, and that has tensular strength, which is more It's strength of push
We
and
know a lot
pull.
about it in California. We have to have it.
You have to have it because
by
stuff needs
code.
to be
Earthquake proof.
And that, it can't handle compression strength. It gets squished by the strength by the weight that would be held up by bricks, but it's flexible. And so when you mix cement, some flexibility with tensular strength from steel, and the incredible compression strength that cement and rock have, and you actually blend those two together, you can go up from 6 stories, you can go up to 20, 30, 50, 100. Burj Khalifa, I think, is 1,800 feet, 2,000 feet. It's like 200 stories because of the juxtaposition of tensular and compression strength combined. And so I feel like I'm kind of the rock, and my middle name is Clay. It's true. I'm pretty good at just pure brute force smashing my face against a problem. I think I'm pretty good at that. And I think Jessica is really good from a tensular strength perspective with the steel side of it. That the things that in the beginning, I was like, she has no idea what I have to deal with. Now I'm like, I'm glad she doesn't. I'm glad she doesn't, because she's not built for it. It's not what she's designed to do. It's not what she's good at. She wouldn't like it. She would crumble under the pressure that I live under every single day. But I am so inflexible that I cannot go as high or as far in what we're trying to do to serve our family as I can with her, providing that flexibility and that ability to handle the earthquakes and the shifting of the rock. Because, if the rock shifts and there's no steel to hold it in place, it's just going to crack under the pressure because it's not set up right. So anyway, if that's how your marriage is,
I got
post
you
some
back.
comments.
I got you back.
Post some comments. If you agree, disagree.
So-
if you hate this episode, share it. If you love this episode,
Share
blow
it.
it up. If you have disagreements about it, or if you have questions, do we have a number? What number did
I
they
don't
text?
know. We don't have that text number anymore. I don't think I'm paying for it anymore.
We're not paying for the text number
Nobody was
anymore.
texting us.
You weren't
but
texting
whatever.
us anyway.
Just
It
DM
doesn't
us.
really matter.
But
But
so
thank
we're
you
gonna
for being with us.
we're closing out,
Listen to us
and
be
next
cray,
week,
cray.
what I would like to do,
Yes.
given Andrew and yours permission, is I'd like to bring Teddy in, and he can sit here with me. What I would like for you to do, if you could please, and Teddy would like it too, is if you could tell us your story about growing up, about how you were able to change your mindset, because he wants it documented, because he said it was such a good story that you told him the other day.
That's nice.
That he wants it to go onto a
Okay.
podcast so that he can play it.
We got to keep it like super G though.
I know, that's why I think it's important that he's here with me
Okay.
in the episode, is that way
Shielding
you
the
could,
audience from what actually happened.
Well, no, but if you what is the saying? If you can describe whatever it is that you're describing,
To a
if you're trying to
10-year-old?
sell something to a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
you better be able to sell in a 5-minute pitch to a 10-year-old, because if you can do that, and hey, first time. Anybody who wants to purchase Jeff's original drawing, hit me up. Let
You
me
wanna
know.
Hit me up, yeah.
Let
and
me
I
know.
do portraits
I'll
for
sell
free
it.
at the park on
Hey.
Sundays. Come on down.
But we'll bring Teddy in. We'll have a little story time. We'll have a little family story time hour, and you can tell us your story of going from zero to hero, as we see you, as our 11-year-old clearly sees you as his hero. And hopefully maybe some other people can sit down with their youths.
We'll do story time with the Utes.
And tell us how it began.
Yeah.
So that's for next episode.
Next episode 53. Thanks for being with us for
Love you guys.
Jeff Heilman Project.
It's been fun.
We're crazy. We do this every week. Check us out on YouTube, Overcast. I don't know what it's called. What's it called,
It's
Andrew?
Overcast. I
Overcast.
think.
And then we got them on Apple iTunes and the other one, Spotify, for the Google people.
YouTube.
Thank
It's
you
all
for
out
joining.
there.
We are grateful that you've shared some time with us, and we hope you had some fun. Have a great week. See ya.